Good morning, YouTube. Today we're going to compare a Ferrari F430 Coupe and a Ferrari F430 Spider.
So are you recording all of the nefarious activities?
If you're new to the channel, my name is Dan and this is my garage, and this channel is all about the supercar ownership experience. And I realized we have never really compared the 430 Coupe and the 430 Spider. Well, partly because we've never really had both of them available at the same time, and honestly, with such similar specs. So this is gonna be pretty interesting because, well, there's not all that much different, but obviously there are some substantial differences. So let's go over that. But real quick, this car is already sold through our dealership, NG Supercars. So we have a kind of policy, once a car sells, we don't really drive it or anything. So we're not gonna take it out. We're not gonna do really anything with it. We're just gonna look it over. That car is for sale right now through our dealership, NG Supercars. So if you'd like to buy it, go check out ngsupercars.com or send us an email, sales@ngsupercars.com. All right, let's take a look at these beautiful cars and show you some of the differences and some of the little things that make it just a little bit different about the Coupe and the Spider. So when you look at these two cars, pretty much from, I don't know, I would say like the A-pillars forward, there's not really any difference. I mean, you just can't, well, anyway, not any difference that you can see. So they have like same headlights, same bumper, same everything, right? All that stuff's the same. The part that obviously starts making a difference is once you get to the A-pillars on back. So, well, clearly you have a convertible roof here and a coupe roof here. The fenders still have the same inlet. You kind of have a different panel here because you can see this line has this piece right here. This is actually a part of the cassette. The cassette is the device that actually raises and lowers the convertible roof. It's basically the entire convertible roof. We'll show you that in a minute. And then this piece right here that goes back here is the piece, the panel that actually covers the convertible top when it's closed. So we'll show you that in a second as well. You have one uniform piece that blends right into the roof. Now, clearly you have this big, huge piece, this glass piece where you can see the engine and look in there, and it's just glorious. And we'll pop this in just a second. And this is one of the things that makes working on the two much more difficult when it's a Spider, is when this is raised up, you have a ton of access. So we'll show you that. But then going back here, again, bumper, identical, nothing back here is different. And even funny enough, these two even have the challenge wheels. So all of this, yeah, I mean, it's very much the same across the two cars. So let's start off with popping the engine bay on the Coupe. So you pop it the same right there. And these are both F1 cars, so you hear the F1 pump the same in both of them. So right here you can see you have these very large panels covering up the sides, and that's where you've got the air inlets, and you've got some of the computer systems and some other interesting things back there. Right here is where the F1 system is. That is the same on both sides. You have like a vacuum canister and some other things in these compartments on the sides. So when you're working on the two, these panels come off very easily. There's just a bunch of Allen bolts, and then you pop off the strut, and then voila, off it comes. So one thing that's kind of interesting is it's actually more difficult on the Coupe than the Spider, which is changing out the fuel pumps. So if you know anything about these 430s, they have a history of, well, occasionally catching fire. And unfortunately, that's because the fuel pumps, the top of them has this piece on the high pressure side, and it's plastic and it cracks. Well, there's a fuel pump, and that would be fuel. Oh yeah, it's evaporating right in my finger. Oh yeah, well, there you go. There's your problem. And when it cracks, the fuel kind of pushes out through the top of it and overflows and sprays down. Now the downside is those fuel pumps are right under there, right underneath this panel in that corner. And so when it leaks out, it can fall down directly onto the headers, which are of course right there. And that causes, well, fires. That part kind of sucks. And take a look at the engine bay as long as we have it open. So again, popping it, you can hear F1 pump runs. Same door release, everything over here looking pretty much the same. So the engine bonnet, as you can see, is much smaller, and again, these panels look completely different. So you have some mechanisms right here. These are some of the hydraulic cylinders that actually raise and lower that panel right there. So the reason I said the fuel pump thing is so much easier is the way you change the fuel pumps on the Spider is you actually lower this piece, you raise the roof, you have this panel right here sit in the open position, and there's actually some access ports, and you just unscrew those access ports and the fuel pump comes straight out. Now on the Coupe, the problem is those fuel pumps end up hitting the actual like chassis of the car, the structure of the car, and so you kind of gotta like bend them really. It's kind of challenging. A lot of people end up loosening up the fuel tank and lowering it a little bit and then scooching it so you can actually get it to come out. Yeah, it's one of the rare things that's actually more difficult in the Coupe than in the Spider. It's still not a big deal if you have to deal with it, but as you can see, everything else is pretty much the same. The engine, all of these components are all the same, but you've got all these hydraulic things right there and right there. So one of the interesting things is where the hydraulics are for the convertible top is actually right here in this panel sitting next to the passenger seat. So if you're ever running the pumps and you can hear it, it's actually behind this panel. You can hear it going and making noises and stuff. That's where the hydraulics are if you ever have to deal with any of that stuff. Versus on the Coupe, if we go over here, you'll see that panel actually looks different. Here we go. You can see much smaller. So what happens is you end up having a little bit more room for the seats in the Coupes versus the Spiders. And you can see this panel is much smaller versus on the Spider, it's coming out way over into here. So another difference is, of course, the controls. You have some extra buttons. So in the Coupe, you can see there is nothing here in this area. There's no buttons or anything. And another thing to notice is the front switch for the frunk. I can pop it without the key in the ignition. And the reason is because in the Spider, you cannot do that. You have to have the key in the ignition, and that's because, well, if you've got the Spider top down, someone could just walk up, flick that switch, and get into your frunk. So you can see here in the Spider, we'll open the door and pop the frunk. Nothing. You got to have the key in. Now here's the extra buttons I was telling you about. You've got two extra buttons. One is to operate the convertible top. The second one is you actually get a little extra panel. And again, this won't pop unless you have the key in, but right there between the two seats, you get this little access door right there. You can store some stuff in there. I mean, it's not much space, but it's a little bit of space. So, okay, we've got the buttons and the engine bay and stuff covered. Let's actually actuate the top now. Now, normally when you actuate the hydraulic top, you do want to have the engine running just because it does take a lot of power. We're not going to do that just because we're trying to make it so that we can talk and hear you. So we're going to key forward. Wait a second for it to stop beeping. All right, so actually now that we have the key, and I'll show you, you can pop the trunk, and right here, you can pop that little, oh, it's so cute. Look, it's coming out very slowly. There you go. You can fit, I don't know, something in there. All right, well. Anyway, so it's going to operate the top. Of note, it's going to actually automatically lower the windows at the same time. So we're going to flick the switch. You can see windows come down first. It's going to release the front. Pops that, flips that and the rear part up. Now the rear deck lid moves back, raises up. Now the top flips. And this is where a lot of these tops have trouble, is when this piece comes down, sometimes they'll get stuck. See? It's getting stuck. There it goes. And now that piece runs forward and closes. And you can really hear that pump over there. All right, there you go. So obviously the Spider looks a lot better with the Spider top down. This is where you start having opinions of which one do you want better. The Coupe weighs a little bit less. It's got a little bit tighter of a chassis. You don't have as much chassis flex, so obviously it's going to perform a little bit better. Now, the big advantage, of course, with the Spider is the noise is just glorious. You have the engine right behind your hand, right behind your head, only a couple inches away. You get to hear all of that engine noise. It's just glorious. I mean, having a Ferrari engine a couple inches from your head is fantastic. Now you've got these little roll bars and a windshield right here, little wind screens right there. What you can see is this piece right here, this whole section all the way across is what they call the cassette. I'm gonna open this halfway and you'll actually be able to see the cassette. So hold on here. We're gonna do a little half open and wait until this piece comes up all the way. And I have to get ready to catch it because it'll start falling. All right, so there, oh, it's actually holding pretty good. You can see here is the top. Now again, I'm gonna raise it a little bit further. You can see, so some of the issues that you get with this top is these pieces right here won't run up correctly. So you can see they have to run under that, and sometimes they'll run above it and then hit this and it causes problems. And then sometimes this will try to stab the wrong thing. When those don't align correctly, you get some issues. So here we go. Now that the top is part way, let's raise it up a little bit further. Now, one, right there. So see, now it's just gonna start to fall because it's no longer on the lock. But you can see here is that access panel I was telling you about for the fuel pumps. Super easy to get to. All you have to do is prop open this top right here, hold it up, and get those little Allens undone and you're all set. So see, as soon as I let go, this thing falls down because now it's not on the locks anymore. It's got no hydraulic pressure. So let's close it the rest of the way. Here we go. You can see it rams that thing closed. It's gonna flip down the back piece and the front piece at the same time. Watching out to not bash my head, and then a lock, and it beeps. We're all done. You can see, easy peasy. So one thing I want to point out is if you are buying a 430 Spider, run the top 3-4 times, because sometimes they'll run perfectly once and they'll bind up on the second or third try. So always make sure to open, close it a few times if you're going to be buying one of these things. All right, YouTube, there you have it. 430 Spider, 430 Coupe. Not a whole lot of differences, but my opinion is, well, I prefer the Coupes, but I will say having the engine noise on the Spider is kind of incredible. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know you can go wrong with either one. It's totally up to you. It's one of these things that's a personal preference. I don't like Spiders a lot because, well, I'm bald. And so driving around a Spider as a bald guy is not so cool. You have to wear a hat, otherwise you're gonna get sunburned and everyone can see that I'm bald and it just, yeah, you know. Plus it's Texas, it's hot as hell and I like air conditioning. But that is the nice thing. When it's a perfect day out, like 80 degrees, a little bit of cloud cover, and you go drive a Spider, that's pretty damn good, I have to say. The chassis flex and some of the performance issues on the Coupe make it a lot more fun if you're on the track. If I was gonna be tracking the car with any sort of regularity, I would definitely want the Coupe over the Spider. But if you're just cruising around town and enjoying life, it's kind of hard to go wrong with Spider. As far as from a financial perspective, the Spiders do have more maintenance. They are more expensive to buy to begin with. They are generally about $10,000 to $15,000 on average more than an equivalent Coupe. So if these two were the exact same miles and the exact same condition, the Spider would be about $10,000 to $15,000 more. But as far as maintenance goes, there are definitely more maintenance points. You probably will have some sort of issues with the hydraulic top at some point. Now, it's not the worst to repair, but it is kind of a pain in the ass and it can be expensive. Worst case scenario, they have to replace the entire cassette. They yank it out, put in a whole new one. That's like $20,000+. You don't want that to happen. You can have the top replaced. So this car did have the top replaced about a year ago. All the hydraulic cylinders got replaced. That is probably the best case scenario. That's what you want to happen because then it's a lot cheaper. Other than that though, there's probably not a whole lot of other maintenance points that are different. Everything else, the bearings, the bushings, the ball joints, the engine mounts, the exhaust headers, all that stuff are still the same maintenance considerations between the two. So yeah, I don't know you can go wrong, but it's up to you which one you prefer. So put it in the comments below. What would you rather have? 430 Coupe or 430 Spider? But that's gonna do it for this video. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for watching. We do appreciate it. If you guys could like, share, and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and check out our website, normalguysupercar.com, if you want to buy any parts for your supercar, or if you need to buy a supercar. Well, hit us up, sales@NG Supercars. But that's gonna do it. You guys are amazing. We'll see you in the next video. It's gonna be sweet.